In the heart of Houston, Texas, lies the sprawling expanse of the Texas Medical Center, TMC, a world-renowned complex dedicated to healing and advancing medical science. However, within its labyrinthine corridors and state-of-the-art facilities, there exists a chilling tale that defies the very essence of healing. This is a horror story that unfolded within the confines of the Texas Medical Center, where the pursuit of knowledge clashed with the darkest forces that lurk in the shadows. The story begins with Dr. Emily Martinez, a brilliant and ambitious neurosurgeon who had recently joined one of the top hospitals in the Texas Medical Center. Her arrival brought a sense of anticipation and excitement, as colleagues and patients alike marveled at her skills and dedication. Little did they know that Dr. Martinez carried with her a dark secret from her past, a secret that would unravel the fabric of reality within the medical center. As Dr. Martinez delved into her work, she became increasingly obsessed with pushing the boundaries of medical science. Her experiments on the human brain transcended the ethical norms that governed the medical profession. Late at night, she would lock herself in her research lab, conducting mysterious and forbidden procedures that left her colleagues puzzled and disturbed. Rumors began to circulate among the hospital staff about strange occurrences within the Texas Medical Center. Nurses reported hearing eerie whispers in the empty hallways, and janitors claimed to have seen ghostly apparitions wandering through the deserted operating rooms. Some believed it was just the stress of working in a high-pressure environment, but others couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent had taken residence in the medical center. One fateful night, as a torrential rainstorm enveloped Houston, a series of inexplicable events unfolded within the Texas Medical Center. The power flickered, and emergency generators hummed to life, casting an eerie glow across the darkened hallways. Dr. Martinez, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, embarked on a forbidden experiment that involved tapping into the darkest recesses of the human mind. As she conducted her experiment, a surge of otherworldly energy swept through the medical center. Lights flickered, and the temperature plummeted, creating an atmosphere of palpable dread. Unbeknownst to Dr. Martinez, she had unleashed forces beyond her comprehension, forces that thrived on the fear and suffering of those within the Texas Medical Center. Patients in the intensive care unit began to experience inexplicable and horrifying visions. The boundaries between life and death blurred as the spirits of those who had passed away in the medical center returned to haunt the living. The once sterile and orderly environment of the Texas Medical Center transformed into a nightmarish realm where the laws of physics and biology no longer held sway. Hospital staff found themselves trapped in a waking nightmare as they navigated through shifting corridors and encountered spectral entities that defied explanation. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom as the medical center became a battleground between the living and the vengeful spirits that sought retribution for the sins committed within its walls. Dr. Martinez, oblivious to the chaos she had unleashed, continued her experiment in the bowels of the medical center. Unholy whispers echoed through the hallways as the spirits, fueled by rage and despair, converged on her location. The boundaries between the living and the dead continued to blur, and the very fabric of reality began to unravel. A group of desperate survivors, including doctors, nurses, and support staff, gathered in a makeshift refuge within the medical center. Together, they tried to make sense of the supernatural phenomena that besieged them. As they delved into the history of the Texas Medical Center, they uncovered a dark past rife with unethical experiments, cover-ups, and the exploitation of vulnerable patients. As the survivors confronted the malevolent forces that lurked within the medical center, they discovered that the only way to break the curse was to confront the sins of the past. Dr. Martinez, driven to the brink of madness by the supernatural onslaught, became a vessel for the tortured spirits seeking redemption. In a climactic showdown between the living and the dead, the survivors faced not only the supernatural entities but also the ethical dilemmas that had plagued the Texas Medical Center for years. The very soul of the medical center hung in the balance as the survivors grappled with the consequences of their actions and sought to free themselves from the grip of the paranormal forces that threatened to consume them. In the end, the Texas Medical Center stood as a haunting reminder of the thin line between the pursuit of knowledge and the descent into darkness. The survivors emerged scarred and changed, forever haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. The once prestigious medical center, tainted by the sins of its past, stood as a spectral monument to the price of unchecked ambition and the consequences of playing with forces beyond human understanding. And so, the Texas Medical Center horror story became a cautionary tale whispered among medical professionals, a chilling reminder that even in the noble pursuit of healing, the shadows of the past can cast a long and malevolent presence. Story 2. In the heart of the Texas Medical Center, where the hum of fluorescent lights and the antiseptic scent of disinfectants hung heavy in the air, there existed an old, forgotten ward. This part of the hospital had been sealed off for decades, its existence buried beneath layers of bureaucracy and hushed whispers. Dr. Emily Harris, a dedicated but curious young physician, stumbled upon the records of the abandoned ward while researching the hospital's history. Intrigued by the mystery, she convinced herself that exploring the forgotten area might reveal hidden medical breakthroughs or historical artifacts. One night, armed with a flickering flashlight and a sense of unease, Harris ventured into the dilapidated corridor. The air inside felt colder, and the shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. As she delved deeper, the echoing footsteps of her own shoes were accompanied by distant whispers, almost like the murmurs of long-lost patients. The ward revealed itself as a time capsule of medical practices from a bygone era. Rusty beds lined the rooms, and ancient medical equipment stood as silent witnesses to the medical experiments and treatments of the past. Yet, there was an unmistakable feeling that the forgotten ward was not as empty as it seemed. Each room told a tale of suffering and despair, but one room stood out. The door creaked open on its own, revealing a dimly lit space with an old operating table at its center. As Dr. Harris approached, she could hear the faint sound of a heartbeat, irregular and desperate. On the table lay the spectral figure of a patient, his eyes hollow and vacant. His voice, a mere whisper, echoed through the room, telling a tale of medical experimentation gone awry. The hospital had once housed a secret project, an attempt to unlock the mysteries of life itself. As the story unfolded, the spirits of those who had suffered in the name of science materialized around Harris. They pleaded for release, their ethereal forms reaching out in silent agony. The doctor realized that their souls were trapped, cursed to linger between life and death. Terrified yet determined, Harris vowed to find a way to set the tormented spirits free. She delved into the hospital archives, discovering the dark secrets of the medical experiments conducted in that forgotten ward. The more she learned, the more the malevolent presence within the abandoned area resisted her intrusion. Strange occurrences plagued the hospital. Lights flickered, equipment malfunctioned, and spectral figures appeared in reflections. Dr. Harris found herself tormented by nightmares, haunted by the anguished cries of the forgotten souls. In her pursuit of redemption, she uncovered a long-buried ritual that could break the curse. It required her to confront the tormented spirits and offer them closure. With trepidation, she returned to the abandoned ward, armed with candles, ancient texts, and a desperate hope for salvation. The ritual began, the air thickening with tension as Dr. Harris chanted incantations to appease the restless spirits. Shadows writhed, and the temperature dropped, but the doctor pressed on. As the final words left her lips, a blinding light engulfed the ward. When the radiance subsided, the forgotten ward stood silent and still. Dr. Harris, exhausted but triumphant, realized that the tormented spirits were gone. The air felt lighter, and the malevolent presence that had gripped the hospital for decades had dissipated. However, as she left the abandoned ward, a whisper lingered in the shadows, a grateful murmur from the souls she had freed. The Texas Medical Center, once tainted by the horror of its past, could finally heal, and Dr. Emily Harris walked away, forever changed by the echoes of the forgotten ward. Story 3. In the heart of Houston, Texas, lies the Texas Medical Center, a sprawling complex of cutting-edge hospitals, research institutions, and medical facilities. It is a place where hope and healing converge, where medical miracles are born, and where the boundaries of science and medicine are continually pushed. However, within this bastion of healthcare, there exists a tale of horror that unfolded over the course of several chilling nights. The story begins innocently enough, with Dr. Emily Walker, a brilliant and ambitious neurosurgeon, arriving at the Texas Medical Center to pursue her career dreams. She was drawn to the center's reputation for innovation and excellence, but little did she know that her life was about to take a dark and twisted turn. One fateful evening, as the moon cast an eerie glow over the medical complex, Drive, Walker found herself on call in the neurology department. The hospital corridors were unusually quiet, with only the distant hum of machinery breaking the silence. Unbeknownst to her, a series of mysterious events had been unfolding within the center, events that would soon shatter the tranquility of the medical haven. It all started with a string of unexplained patient deaths. Initially dismissed as tragic but isolated incidents, a pattern soon emerged. Each victim had undergone a routine procedure or surgery, only to succumb to inexplicable complications in the aftermath. Dr. Walker, dedicated to her craft and the well-being of her patients, began to notice the disturbing trend. Late one night, as she delved into the medical records of the deceased, she discovered a common thread: an experimental drug that had been administered to all the patients. The drug, developed in secrecy within the center's research labs, promised revolutionary results in treating neurological disorders. However, its side effects were far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Driven by a sense of duty and an unrelenting curiosity, Drive, Walker decided to investigate further. As she delved deeper into the clandestine world of the Texas Medical Center, she uncovered a web of corruption, greed, and unethical experimentation. The experimental drug, codenamed Nero-X, was not just a medical breakthrough, it was a harbinger of doom. The medical center's top executives and researchers had conspired to rush the drug into human trials, bypassing crucial safety protocols and ethical considerations. Patients were unwittingly turned into guinea pigs, and the consequences were catastrophic. The Nero-X, intended to repair damaged neural pathways, instead unleashed a nightmarish cascade of mutations and uncontrollable side effects. As Dr. Walker uncovered the truth, she became a target. The shadowy figures behind the Nero-X experiment would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. Security cameras were disabled, files were erased, and her every move was monitored. Paranoia set in as she realized that her pursuit of justice had made her an enemy of the very institution she had once admired. The horror escalated when the mutated patients, now dubbed the afflicted, began to roam the medical center's halls at night. Distorted and grotesque, these once human beings exhibited abnormal strength and an insatiable hunger for flesh. Panic gripped the medical staff as the situation spiraled out of control. Dr. Walker, now both a whistleblower and a survivor, sought allies within the medical center who shared her commitment to exposing the truth. A ragtag group of nurses, technicians, and a disillusioned security guard joined forces with her to unravel the dark conspiracy. Together, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Texas Medical Center, avoiding both the mutated patients and the sinister forces determined to silence them. As the group uncovered more about the Nero-X experiment, they realized that the drug had not only mutated its victims physically but had also unlocked latent psychic abilities. Some afflicted had telepathic powers, while others could manipulate the physical world with their minds. The medical center, once a beacon of hope, had become a battleground between the mutated patients and those seeking justice. The climax of the horror story unfolded in the heart of the medical center's research facility. Dr. Walker and her allies discovered the hidden laboratory where the Nero-X experiment had been conceived. They were met with a gruesome sight: rows of test subjects, grotesquely transformed and imprisoned in a grotesque fusion of science and madness. As they delved deeper into the laboratory's secrets, they uncovered the true extent of the experiment's consequences. The mutated patients were not only physical aberrations but also carriers of a psychic contagion that threatened to spread beyond the confines of the medical center. The afflicted had become conduits for a dark and malevolent force, and the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel around them. In a climactic showdown, Drive, Walker and her allies faced off against the mastermind behind the Nero X experiment, Drive. Richard Harlan, a once respected neuroscientist driven mad by his insatiable desire for recognition and power. Harlan, now a twisted figure consumed by his own creation, sought to harness the psychic energy of the afflicted to ascend to a godlike status. The battle that ensued was a surreal blend of medical science and supernatural horror. The afflicted, guided by their newfound psychic abilities, clashed with the desperate survivors. Dr. Walker, armed with both medical knowledge and a newfound psychic connection to the afflicted, confronted Harlan in a final, nightmarish showdown. As the medical center teetered on the brink of collapse, reality itself seemed to warp and fracture. The boundaries between the physical and psychic realms blurred, and the fate of the Texas Medical Center hung in the balance. In a moment of sacrifice and redemption, Drive, Walker unleashed the latent powers within the afflicted to contain the psychic contagion, sealing both the mutated patients and Dr. Harlan within a metaphysical prison. The Texas Medical Center, once a beacon of hope, now bore the scars of a horrifying ordeal. The survivors emerged into the dawn, forever changed by the nightmarish events that had unfolded within its walls. Dr. Walker, haunted by the choices she had made and the lives lost, vowed to expose the truth to the world. In the aftermath, the Texas Medical Center became a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition and unethical experimentation. The horror that had unfolded within its corridors served as a chilling reminder that even in the pursuit of scientific progress, the line between healing and monstrosity could be easily crossed. The shadows of the Nero X experiment lingered, a dark stain on the reputation of the once prestigious medical complex.